welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into one of the most dramatic economic stories of our time, how China went from a nation in total ruin to a global superpower, and did it all within a single human lifetime.
To really understand this journey, you have to start at rock bottom. And as Chris Leung, an economist at DBS, puts it very simply here, when the Communist Party took control, China was desperately poor. We're talking about a country completely isolated, cut off from the rest of the world, with basically no trade or diplomatic relationships to speak of. But then, look at this number. According to the World Bank, since the late 1970s, 850 million people have been lifted out of poverty. That is just a staggering figure, and it gives you a hint of the massive scale of the change we're about to unpack. So, how on earth did this happen? Well, we're going to trace the whole story. We'll start at that rock bottom point, then look at the reforms that opened the floodgates. We'll see how China became the workshop of the world, then explore its surprising pivot into a tech leader, and finally look at the really tough challenges that lie ahead.
Okay, first things first, we really need to get a handle on just how bleak the situation was. Before any kind of economic miracle, you had decades of turmoil that left the country completely on its knees.
You know, in the decades before this big boom, China was just shattered. And it was largely because of two major political campaigns. First was the Great Leap Forward, a disastrous attempt to force industrialization on a rural country, which led to one of the worst famines in human history. And that was followed by the Cultural Revolution, a period of social and political chaos that basically tore the nation's fabric apart. And this really gives you a feel for what daily life was like. Think about it. For an average family, the most prized possession you could hope to own was a bicycle, or maybe a radio. Private property? It basically didn't exist. The state owned everything, the land, the homes. Life was just about survival. So what was the spark? What changed everything? Well, the big turning point came in the late 1970s, and it was all kicked off by a new leader with a totally different idea for the country. After Mao died, his successor, Deng Xiaoping, looked around at all the devastation and decided to make a radical change. He rolled out market reforms, he gave peasants the right to farm their own land, and, this is absolutely crucial, he re-established ties with the United States, cracking open the door of a once-closed nation to the rest of the world. The arrival of Western stuff was a total culture shock. I mean, can you imagine? A single bottle of Coke, a symbol of American capitalism, was a wild luxury item. It was a sign of a completely different world, and a sign that things were about to fundamentally, dramatically change. And boy, did those reforms work. They unleashed a period of absolutely explosive growth. With a huge, cheap labor force, foreign money just poured in, and pretty quickly, China transformed into the workshop of the world. The numbers here are just mind-boggling. In 1978, China's exports were worth about $10 billion. Fast forward to 2018, and that number had exploded to $4.3 trillion. A huge part of that was joining the World Trade Organization in 2001, which really plugged China into the global economy for good. All that export money fueled a construction frenzy on a scale the world had literally never seen. I mean, to put it into perspective, get this. In just 3 years, from 2011 to 2013, China used more cement than the United States used in the entire 20th century. And you could literally see this speed in the skylines. A city like Shanghai went from basically flat farmland to a dense forest of skyscrapers, and it felt like it happened overnight. This wasn't just building. The entire face of the country was being redrawn in a single generation.
So, you know, it's easy to get lost in the stats, the skyscrapers, the trillions of dollars. But the most important point, the real story here, is that this incredible growth had a real, massive, and positive impact on the lives of hundreds of millions of people. It was a change in fortune like nothing the world had ever seen before.
But the story doesn't stop with just making stuff. In the last few years, China has evolved again into something completely new, a type of economic powerhouse the world has never really seen before. And this is a brand new phenomenon. For all of modern history, being a tech leader was something only for rich, advanced economies. China is the very first country to completely break that mold. This data just lays out the paradox perfectly. China recently ranked as one of the world's most innovative countries, ahead of traditional tech giants like Germany and Japan. And yet its income per person, how much the average citizen makes, is still just a fraction of theirs. It's innovating like a wealthy country, while a lot of its population is still playing catch-up. It's wild. And this tech skill is totally transforming its factories. China is no longer just the place for cheap labor, it's a super advanced manufacturing hub. Just look at this. It now operates 41% of all the world's industrial robots. That's way more than second-place Japan.
But of course, a rise this fast and this massive doesn't come without a cost, and it's created a whole new set of really complex challenges for China's future.
A big one is that all that economic success hasn't spread evenly. A deep inequality has opened up, creating what some people call two Chinas. You have these hyper-advanced coastal megacities on one hand, and then you have vast inland areas that have been largely left behind. And as the economy matures, that era of explosive growth is over. China is now facing some serious headwinds. Economic growth is slowing down right as its population is getting old fast. At the same time, it's dealing with trade tensions and trying to pull off this really tricky pivot away from relying on exports toward a new model that's powered by its own people buying stuff. And all of this brings us to a huge fundamental question about China's future. For decades, the Communist Party's main selling point was simple. We will deliver constant, incredible economic growth. So as that growth machine inevitably slows down, what happens to that promise? It's the central question that means China's story is still very, very far from over.